Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So because this is mic'd directly to the camera, so they get it clean typically. But if you're not wearing a mic, it doesn't really work. So. And, they both do. Depends on which one they turn on. Because we have 3 cameras that they can select. So, ready? Okay. Salute. So you say, well, how do they select? Right now, mine is doing it from his phone. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Okay. First exercise. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. To the side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and stop. Okay. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, one more time. Hands up. Reach down. 1, 2, 3. To your right. To your left. Center. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands on your waist. Circular movements. Reverse. And center. Cross. Knees. Circular movements. Reverse. And center. Okay, hands on your waist. Neck turning. and center, back and forth. And center. Tilt to the side. Okay, center, down, circular movements. Reverse. And center. Okay, hands up. Deep breathing, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Okay, spread your feet. Turn your shoulders. Hey, Mark. You made it. Oh. And center. Okay, turn, stretch it out. Switch. Switch. Straighten the front knee. Switch. 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 Center. and squat down if you can. Okay, shake it out. Okay, hands up. Pull in, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands in your waist. Shoulder roll. And reverse. Okay, center. Okay, press. Release. Exhale. Inhale. And stop. Deep breathing. Inhale. Okay. Circular movements. Okay, reverse. Okay, palms down, bigger circle. Two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and stop. Okay, hands on your waist, side to side. Okay. Okay, center. Right foot down, opposite side down. Okay, lift up, insert needle. Oops. Okay, switch, other side. Lifting up. And center. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Okay, leg swing. Switch. And center. Okay, side to side. And center. Switch. and center. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, hands here. Step out, silk reeling. Switch. Okay, center, cross, open and close. Switch. Okay, center. Okay, lower hoop. So try to get your elbows to open up like this. Yeah. Okay, shoulder height. Elbows down. Am I? Okay, lower. Palms down. Extend. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay, diagonal flying. Switch. Okay, center, cloud hands. Okay, so let's add the footwork going in the direction to the right, to the left, and then we'll go back to the right. Going back. Switch, going back. Okay, going back. Okay, shake it out. Deep breathing. So the step out, when we're in a position like this and we step out, the most critical part of the movement is controlling the legs. So when we step out, this is your substantial leg. The insubstantial is the one you can move. So when you move and you're ready to plant the foot, you want to sink in the supporting leg and then open and then step to here, and you can pivot. So when you step to here, it still stays insubstantial because the insubstantial is the lighter leg and you can pivot. So that same footwork happens, say, after grasp the sparrow's tail and we step out. So sink in this leg, meaning that you don't actually put weight on this foot. You release the leg and then you open the hip and you start to transition. That's where the weight shift happens. And then that becomes insubstantial. So the relationship between substantial and insubstantial is a constant shifting of weight, releasing and building that mechanism so that when you're in a position you have the ability to become agile and controlling of which leg starts to fill with the weight. So it's filling and emptying, filling and emptying. Now that's, say, the biggest step. So you can also practice it by turning like this. So all you do is standing and going from the shoulder width. So what you're doing is kind of teaching your legs to recognize and understand that those two extremities, the lower half has to become a relationship. Okay. That same footwork happens when you repulse the monkey. So you have to kind of plant, adjust, and shift. Plant, adjust, and shift. So that allows you to go essentially backwards or to the side using the toe or the ball of the foot as the pivot point and the hinge, you see. So the ball of the foot folds and unfolds, folds and unfolds. So between the ankle and the ball of the foot, you have this action that allows you to soften your footwork and allows your ankles to release. You know, the ankles areas that become very rigid because why? Because our legs are weight bearing. So when they're bearing weight, all it wants to do is be strong and hold you up. But actually that doesn't help footwork and it doesn't help your agility of moving, because once your feet become rigid, then you're not actually maneuvering and shifting the little bones that are in the foot and not increasing the feedback from the soles of your feet to your brain to let you know where you are in space. That's part of proprioception. And then this ability to move like that becomes a motor skill. When we're doing this type of movement, where you're alternating and controlling the up and down movement, there's that relationship, and this translates into this. So then eventually the legs work as a unit and have that relationship where the movement happens as a function of something else. So if I sink here and I relax, and that's going to happen. If I release and keep the weight there, then all this does is rock like this. So then the movements get softer. So when Tai Chi you say, use your will and not strength, what is not strength? No strength, or not using strength. It's really understanding of how much. And we really don't know how much. So you only can experience through doing it to determine, what that balance point is. So as you progress, it becomes less and less, and at some point it's going to be the right amount. If it's too deficient, then you actually won't even be able to, get anything to happen because it becomes too soft. So that balance point is something that we're constantly struggling with. So that's there. Your legs will have the same type of relationship. That's there. Then the arms will have the same relationship. So all these relationships that you have in the body is really heightening not just sensitivity, but awareness and body intelligence. It starts to connect as, what actually should be happening. So it's a sort of a philosophy. It's sort of the idea of yin and yang. It's all of these, theories that, the founders of this stuff really were thinking from their experience. And that everything we do is from someone else's experience, really, right? We learn, that's what teachers have. They go through whatever, expertise they have, and they work it and work it and work it until they have these discoveries. So when we practice, there is discovery. And as you discover, you'll realize that movements, when we generate a move, I call it summation of components. So your components are the different parts of your body. The upper body has 3 components on each side. lower body has 3 components on each side. So we stand, the legs are planted, and the only thing that can happen is you shift from side to side, but they have to be working together. In the upper body, we move. One is actually stationary and the other hand is moving. And then eventually more parts start to move, like turning of the shoulders really is rotating the spine. The spine is actually your vertical axis. When you reset the center and you turn and reset the center, you're really generating the center line and creating the movement that emerges back to center, the midline. And your limbs will adjust as a function of your movement. And when you shift like this, if I'm turning like this, so you see my torso is turning slightly to 45. When I reset the center, it's starting to rotate the opposite way. So it's something that you have to be aware of. And then eventually it becomes innate. It becomes something that your body will automatically do. Your torso will automatically start to turn with every movement. Because movement is in space. We have forward, backward, right, left, up and down. When we turn like this is right and left. When we go forward and back, it's in that direction. And then up and down is lifting the back and rounding the back. That becomes hollowing. Lifting can be like this, but that's isolated, just an arm movement. If I'm down and I straighten my legs, that's lifting. So your legs, your arms work as units. So that's called upper and lower coordination. Right and left movements is the horizontal axis. Right? So you go into right to left. So you can turn right to left with this shape, your hoop, or you can go right to left with the vertical elbow. So when you move right to left, you have the options of horizontal or vertical, right and left. So all of these movements help you build spatial awareness and understanding of the pattern. When we move, there's patterns in our motion. Right? So carry tiger to the mountain are the shapes, the geometry of position, the 3 hoops to the palm out. Cross the forearms and then lower hoop. So when you lift, you inhale. You open, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. You lift up, infinity sign. Open, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, then form the fist. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, so typically inhalation happens on the rise, exhalation happens on the sinking. Inhalation happens on the expansion, and exhalation on the contracting or the closing. So that's just balance in movement, but it's balance in breath, because ultimately you control your breath through the expansion and contraction of your the thoracic area and your diaphragm. So your diaphragm's a muscle, and you control that up and down movement, and that's what sinking is. Inhale, exhale. So in Tai Chi, there's two types of breathing. One type is the natural breath, and the natural breath is when you inhale, then your internal apparatus will expand, like filling a balloon. And when the balloon collapses, it exhales like a bellows. Then there's the idea of reverse breathing. And reverse breathing is when you inhale, your abdominal area would draw in. It's like pulling your navel in toward the back, towards your spine. And then exhale is to let it go. And then the breath sinks down to your lower abdomen, called the dantian. That's the reservoir for what they call storing your breath. So that's your center of mass. But the controlling of inhalation and exhalation becomes controlling this. This area is involved in breathing, but most of us don't control it because we don't have the ability to understand the relationship between movement and breath. We just breathe because it's necessary. But when we train or we do Tai Chi or Kung Fu, any of these type of things, the breath is involved because on the exertion side of movement, you always exhale, just like a weightlifter would exhale on the push, and they relax and you exhale. Because when you exhale and you push and you exert, your body has to go through this tense stage to overcome the force and not allow your body to be strained. It has to be tense, and then it allows it to happen. So otherwise you'll injure yourself. But in breath and movement, if you don't sustain and control your breath, you can also injure yourself. Because as you control your breath, the internal pressure changes. That internal pressure is what you regulate, and that's what strengthens you internally, because your organs and all this stuff inside also needs circulation and oxygen, and it works off of the fuel you feed it, your nutrients, or even the visceral fat that's inside. It uses that for energy, and that's all activated by movement. So that's why I say movement is essential to life. It's not just a matter of that. Just saying it, it's a fact. You have to move in order to create circulation, and circulation is only to do that, to bring these fuels to your cells, including the oxygen. And how do we do it? We do it by deep breathing. And we do it through all our movements, because our breath is happening consistently with the movement. So you spend, like we have an hour and a half class, we go through the warm-ups, we go through the form, we go through all of these things. You're standing, you're constantly moving, you're strengthening everything that's involved with just being. So you're standing here, but you don't feel exhausted at the end of the class. You barely break a sweat, because we're not using excessive strength. When you use a lot of energy in movement, muscle contractions, very physical movement, you start to produce, a lot of heat, a lot of waste from those actions happening. So your body actually becomes depleted, right? But when you do this, it doesn't take any resources as typically someone that's really exercising would do. So people think exercises to do that, but it's true. When you're younger, that's they need to do that because they have a different mentality of what they need to do to their body, and that's actually fairly new. It's only between probably maybe in the 90s to now that all these gyms opened up. But for people that are older, I think I call it age-appropriate exercise. It's a whole different need. It's more about integration of body, coordination, and maintaining that circulation that happens practically effortlessly. It doesn't drain your body of the resources by wasting energy. So as we move and we become much more natural in motion because we're not physically doing this. If you did this for an hour like this, you would be pretty exhausted. So the less energy you use, the less sweating there is because they're not producing all that heat. Okay, deep breathing. Inhale. Okay, now carry tiger to the mountain is this. So we have to kind of work it just to get the same action that we have in the form, or even in the fundamentals is that. So when we're in this position, we go to lower position. You sit back, you unweighted the front leg, and you initiate the turn, and you sit back, and you fold to create the roundness. Then you go forward, and you lift your back. You sit back, and then so everything is directional. And then you cross your forearm. And then you raise your hand. That would be setting up for stork flaps wings. So this hand and this hand eventually will be where stork flaps the wing is. So in the form, we don't go way up. It's only reference to eye level. So when we're here, first thing is you sink down. So the weight goes to the front and you feel it pressing down. Then you release and let the arms relax. And you initiate the turn by turning your shoulder because that becomes a spine movement. Now you turn, the heel's going to pivot on its own. Then once it gets there, where it's pointing to the front, then you unwind the hip and you start to go up. Now once you go up, you're going leaning forward and then you seat into this front leg. Now you're vertical here and you push off the front leg. And you pivot on the heel and transition over till you square your feet. Sink down and cross and then lift. So your body goes through that whole series of movements. It's sequential. So you're controlling the movements and eventually it blends together and it's creating this posture, cross hands. Okay, so we have to do all that just to get to here. So we're here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, forward and back. Cross and sink. So integration of body, transitioning in space with the volume of motion. The rise and the fall becomes integration of elbows and knees, right? So if you notice, when we go forward and I straighten and I turn and I sink in the legs and the rounds, it goes up and then it becomes backward. So as you seat the wrists like this, you feel the direction of movement going backwards. And then we're going to turn. And we turn, we relax the elbows and the hips are relaxed and they're folding, and then we shift, right? So we're here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. When you go down, you go up. When you go down, you turn and you pick up the arm on the way up, and then you settle. So every time you settle in a final position, release the shoulders, elbows are folded and relaxed. If I release the shoulder, I release the hip. I release the elbows, I release the knees. I release the wrists or seat the wrists, you seat your feet, your ankles. So those 6 joints have to synchronize as a relationship. So that's the idea, you know. We call it harmony and movement in some instances, but it's really relationships and how those joints work. So when we build that relationship, that's the understanding the body will pick up. Then all your movements will have this concept of harmony and motion. Harmony and motion is not just being simultaneous action, it's sequential. So while you're moving this ankle and this shoulder, that's building a sequence of events, and those relationships are constantly going through that same process. So, you know, it's trying to build that feeling in motion and discovery of what that relationship becomes when you do it. So that's the brain plasticity. That's the learning. And you say, well, we have to learn new things. Well, as long as you're doing it and you're discovering, you're learning new things. You don't have to, you know, relearn a completely new set. You have to discover what you're doing in just the simple things that you're doing. What is sinking the elbow? What is, you know, all of these ideas. And, you know, that's how you evolve, and that's why something like this people can do for a long, long time and not typically get bored, because it's not just, you know, doing 100 curls. That could be boring or painful, because, you know, your bicep, once it gets to be, you know, conditioned, and then you need to do 125 for it to get any benefit. But we're not looking to build that kind of endurance and strength. We're looking to build connections, that integration. So, anyways, so we did carry tack to the mountain, strum the lute. So these are important, because as you find your triangle and your center line, then you start to let your body move and respond to the action. Okay, then draw the bow. So at this point, if you look in the mirror, your elbow and hands are all in one line. The fingertip to the tip of your elbow should feel the two ends as a straight line. And it happens because we're turning and realigning our skeleton to create that position. And when you move, the only way you can actually create some of the positions is to let go of the excessive tension in the joints. Okay. Open the stance, fan to the back. Okay, raise the hand. Okay, palms down. Deep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Good. So, a lot of teachers that taught martial arts or Tai Chi, especially Tai Chi, it's a lot of the older teachers that ended up in their 80s and 90s. A lot of them didn't start until maybe their 50s, and they were prescribed, Tai Chi because of health issues. So they always sort of going through that, and then they say, Tai Chi cured them, but you have to look at the big picture. It's not just Tai Chi that did that. It's the practice, but it's really a general change in lifestyle, because those people were probably pretty stressed, had a lot of other things going on. So the change in lifestyle, which involves everything, exercise, the way you move, and the theory behind it, and then your diet. They changed their diet. They maybe, all of this affects the overall well-being of a person. So, I've been doing this a long time, and even as I evolve, my ideas change. And as I'm, older, I'm more conscious of what I take in as nutrients. Because when you're young, you just eat everything, and you don't really pay attention because it's there, and you have access to it. But, it's not that I'm a vegetarian or I'm vegan or so I eat everything, but it's in moderation. But then you have to eat the right stuff, kind of. And so I look at all of that, because what you take in is what you feed your cells. So that's actually pretty important. And they even today, as they do research with all the different diseases that we have, they're discovering a lot of it is tied to food and diet, that people are lacking from lack of understanding, right? Because no one ever tells you. So now that we have, access to all this information, it's out there. It's whether you, put it to play or not. So all the stuff that I talk about, movement, it goes across, the website. It doesn't mean anything to anyone unless you actually do it, right? So we expand and align the body. What does that mean to anybody unless you're doing something like this? But the expansion and alignment of the body is balancing and movement, and balancing your musculature so the body's in this equilibrium. But then when you expand your body, ligaments and joints, it affects the connective tissue, the ligaments and tendons, and your muscles, because that's most of the tissue on the outside. They're just muscles and ligaments and tendons. They're required to move, to help you move your skeleton. Without good movement and relaxed movement, you're only stressing the joints. So the ligaments and tendons are abused, and in a sense, they don't have as much circulation as the muscle. So if you don't get the movements to the ends, then there's deterioration there. They're kind of starving for nutrients. So that's something that's pretty interesting. If you just through movement, you have to work all of that. So let's do the short form. We're doing the short form, so fist under elbow. Okay. Entire long form. Go through it. Ready? Okay, good. So we ran over time, but I don't have to rush out today, so. Okay, so last class for, I guess, this year. Okay. Yeah, glad to be back. A little bit, yeah. We can't help it. You just walk around.